All right. Wow. What a great evening of boxing. Jermell Charlo knocks out Jeison Rosario and proves why he should be one of the top pound for pound fighters in boxing. Let's talk about the fight between Jeison Rosario and Jermell Charlo in this video. All right. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. So, 75 bucks, it was worth it. I really felt for the first time since we've been in this whole pandemic thing that I actually had a really good night of boxing. Very long card for this from Showtime. Very interesting way that they broke up the fights. They had like it seemed like it was almost two separate pay-per-view shows with like a bit of an intermission in between when Jermell Charlo headlined the first part of it, where when he fought Sergey Deverenchenko and he wound up beating Sergey Deverenchenko by unanimous decision in a very solid fight, dude. Jermell Charlo, I definitely see why Canelo Alvarez didn't want to fight this dude. Gennady Golovkin's not trying to fight him, and why so many people seem so desperate to try to sweep this dude, Jermell Charlo, up underneath the rug. Dude, he looked absolutely fantastic. And he was, in the first half of it. And then in the second one was the fight we're going to talk about in this video, which is Jermell Charlo versus Jeison Rosario. And let me tell you, man, absolutely outstanding job by Jermell Charlo. I had been saying for a while that I thought that Jermell Charlo deserves to be, in the top pound for pound conversation, and definitely win if he was able to beat Jeison Rosario and get his hands on the WBA, the WBC, and the IBF belt, that there shouldn't be any excuse or any reason why he shouldn't be there and why he shouldn't get that respect, that mainstream respect that he deserves, man. Because 154 pounds is a very, very difficult division. It's a very deep division where people, Lara has the belt, and Hurd has the belt, and J-Rock has the belt, and Jeison Rosario has the belt, and Jermell Charlo was there the whole time. Dude had a little bit of a hiccup with Tony Harrison in a fight that I thought Jermell Charlo won, but he didn't get the decision. He comes back and he knocks out Tony Harrison. Now he comes back and fights Jeison Rosario, who was the person that had beaten J-Rock. Man, it's just an excellent performance, man. First off, Jeison Rosario was no joke. And this is why Jermell Charlo deserves full credit. Jeison Rosario is a very, very tough fighter. He's a very good fighter. He just was just in there with a guy that was a completely, different level of fighter than he was. And, Jermell Charlo showed it in every area, in all the, the four scoring criteria of boxing. Jermell Charlo showed his superiority in every area, dude, from, defense to ring generalship, clean, effective punching, effective aggressiveness. You saw it all out of Jermell Charlo, man. And, there was times like, for example, when Jermell Charlo would knock down Jeison Rosario, he knocked him down in the first round. I think he might have also knocked him down, maybe was it the fifth, and I think he might have getting him out of there with a body shot. Now, oh my God, man. To get him out of there with that body shot, that jabbing body shot where it just made it look like his whole body was having convulsions and things, man, that was absolutely nasty. But, Jeison Rosario was a very solid fighter. You could tell that he had power. You could see that he was very, very tough. He was coming, trying to execute his game plan. But every step of the way, Jermell Charlo was just a step ahead of him. There's pretty much nothing Jeison Rosario could do to Jermell Charlo. Whenever Jeison Rosario got in close, Jermell Charlo would get in, tie it up, kill the action. So there was no opportunity for him to do anything on the inside. You could see how frustrated Jeison Rosario was becoming, with the low blows and the shot, those low blows and all that stuff that he was throwing, continually getting warned about it, but he was just, despite being a very, very solid fighter, man, And you could see that with what he did in the last, in several of his fights. Um, he was just in there with a guy that was a completely different level than he was. And I think that you can say that about anybody that's going to get into the ring with Jermell Charlo at 154 pounds. He is the best fighter at 154 pounds. And I honestly, man, right about now, I can't see why, especially like if you consider like some of the people on those lists, like Gennady Golovkin. Well, Gennady Golovkin definitely got to get up off that list now because Jermall Charlo just whooped Sergey Deverenchenko much worse than he did. And now you have Jermell Charlo that's coming that has, 3 of the major championship belts, which is something that Gennady Golovkin no longer has, but Gennady Golovkin did have when people put him on those pound for pound lists and touted him as being that because he held 3 of the belts. But man, just fantastic showing out of Jermell Charlo, man. Hand speed, power, defense, everything. So, obviously, the next question, the question is, what is Jermell Charlo going to do next? And he was asked that in the interview after the fight, but he didn't really give any clear, he gave the same usual, I'm going to do whatever it is, my team will make a great decision for me. And, we'll see who we fight next. Obviously the man, well, not obviously, but I would think that the most right thing to do would be to have Jermall Charlo fight Patrick Teixeira, who holds the WBO 154-pound title, who was a Golden Boy fighter. Now, while that fight is not going to be, that's not going to be a close fight, Jermell Charlo was going to absolutely positively run through him. But I think that is a good option for him, or the best option for him for his next fight, because that way he can get his hands on all 4 of the belts and accomplish something, that like Terence Crawford accomplished, Alexander Usyk accomplished. But other than that, nobody else since Jermaine Taylor beat Bernard Hopkins the first time has been able to accomplish that. And that's just, one fight away for Jermell Charlo. So that makes the most sense, for me, for him to do. Now, what is most likely to happen, however, the best case scenario for there to be a undisputed fight would be if Brian Castano, who is a PBC fighter, fights Teixeira and is able to beat Teixeira, and then Jermell Charlo could fight, Brian Castano for the undisputed title. But chances of that happening is, it's not the best, man. We'll see how much, what the financial situation is with Jermell Charlo, and how much, whether or not that the pay-per-view really was, a successful pay-per-view, which will allow him to afford those belts. Because, that's one of the things about having the belt is, once you win it, then you also got to pay for it. You got to afford it, right? But I would, I'm hoping that he'll be able to hold on to those belts and that we can get a couple defenses out of the 3 belts, which is something we have seen in boxing. Another person that has 3 of the belts is Anthony Joshua, and he wound up defending those 3 belts, multiple times. Hopefully he doesn't have to give it up, the WBO belt on some, excursion trying to fight Tyson Fury instead of Deontay Wilder fighting him. But, anyway, that's a different conversation. Now, the last thing that I did want to discuss, though, is that with Jermell Charlo, now for certain, we should be having a conversation about whether or not Derek James is trainer of the year, because he now has 6 belts he has 2 unified champions and 6 belts, 5 legitimate belts between the 2 fighters. And that is obviously Errol Spence Jr., who has the WBC and the IBF, and Jermell Charlo, who has the IBF, the WBC, and the WBA. And all of those are in the same training camp, man. And another thing, man, Jermell Charlo also gave a lot of credit for this fight to Errol Spence Jr. Was like, man, thank you, Errol Spence Jr., for pushing me and all that. So I'm hoping that, as good as Jermell Charlo looks, because Jermell Charlo looked better in this fight than he did even in those two Tony Harrison fights, man. Just looked absolutely devastating. Well, I'm hoping that, the same will be the case for Errol Spence Jr., that when he gets in, I think he is in November. And I do believe he starts training. I think he starts sparring. What is this? The 27th. Yeah, actually, I think he's supposed to start sparring on Monday, the 28th. So, it's time for the next one for Derrick James. But hey, man, in my opinion, that guy's definitely done enough to deserve to be trainer of the year. Anyway, that's excellent fight. You let me know what you think about the fight cards, all the other fights that took place on that pay-per-view card. And with that, thank you so much for your support. If you're not subscribed, hit the bell icon, hit share, like, all that good stuff. And with that, I'm out. Peace.